Hello, Steve here from Coles Family Butchers. Well, I'm not at the moment because I'm off having recovering from an operation I had. But welcome to my kitchen anyway. It's request time again. One of the customers has asked if we could do a video on barbecue spare ribs. So I'll do just that. The sun is shining right now, but I promise you it won't be later. But for the barbecue spare ribs, you will need 1 rack of ribs. Now when I say 1 rack of ribs, my wife and I are having this for our tea this evening. So this is going to feed 2 of us. Now unfortunately this for our appetites isn't quite big enough for a meal, essentially for 2. If it was a little bit bigger it probably would be, but this one isn't, it's quite a small one. So I'm going to cut this in half. And then just to top it up, I'm going to serve it with a chicken thigh as well, each. Right, if you were doing this for a barbecue, where you're having other stuff on there, you would probably get 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 portions if you're having other stuff with it, you know, like a rib of beef or some burgers or kebabs or what have you. But I say I'm having just this, my wife and I are having just this with a chicken thigh to top it up. So when I say my wife and I are having this, my wife doesn't see the point in ribs because she said it's all bone. It isn't bone. It's about 50% bone, but the other 50% is meat. She says she doesn't like it, but when I strip it off the bone and give it to her with the sauce, she loves it. So my theory is this: my wife is either too bone idle to take the meat off herself, wants someone else to do it, or too prim and proper to get her fingers dirty and handle the meat. So with hers, I'll strip it off the bone. Mine, I can be bothered. So I'm going to cut it in half. Now I'm going to pop it in a bag. We need to season it. Now the seasoning I'm using is our smoky barbecue. So I'll get a good handful of this. We can do this at the shop for you. There are other seasonings. You've got the Kentucky bourbon, there's garlic butter, there's all sorts of flavours. Or you may even have your own. That's fine. What I'm going to do now is seal the bag up, give it a shake. So it's all nicely covered. That should do it. Now I need a tray. Pop the ribs on the tray. A bit of the spare sauce. And a quick rub and dub. Right, now what we need to do is add some liquid to this, because what we're going to do is cook it in the oven before finish it off on the barbecue or in the oven. So, because at the centre, this is belly of pork, so it's, you know, it does need quite a lot of cooking. So I'm going to pour there's about 3/4 of a pint of water here in the tray. Lay on a sheet of greaseproof paper. Unroll the sheet of greaseproof paper again. Put a bit of tin foil on top and seal it up. You can do this in a slow cooker if you wish, but not everyone's got a slow cooker, so I'm going to use the oven. Right, I've put my oven on to 160, nice low heat, which is gas mark 3 I believe, and it's going down the bottom of the oven, and it's going to take 2.5 hours. It will be cooked after 2 hours, but if you do it for 2.5 hours it'll be so soft you'll be able to just suck the meat off the bone. So without further ado, bottom of the oven, I'll say 160, 2.5 hours, and I'll see you then. Okay, it's been 2.5 hours now, and we're going to take the ribs out of the oven. There they are. Woke them up. And there they are in all their glory. Right. If you want to know how soft these things are, yeah, let's get a spoon and this meat just falls apart. Right, this one is going to be my wife's, and I'm going to pull that off the bone. And this one, I was going to serve whole, but hey ho, I'll have it in 2 bits. Right, this one I say I'm going to strip off the bone and give that one for my wife. Oh, that tastes so good. Right, what do we do with that? Well, it's quite simple really. We add a little bit more water to it. We then stir it up with a wooden spoon. As you can see, there's quite a bit of fat in there. But what I'm not going to do is throw this away. I'm going to add a little bit more water to it. Stir it up, and I'm going to put it in a gravy separator. This is a gravy separator. If you haven't got one of these things, I suggest you get one, because they're absolutely fantastic. What'll happen is, when you put the this sauce in there, the fat will sink, or will rise to the top, all right? And then you can pour the juice off through the spouts, and it makes your sauce more healthy. You've got all the flavour out of the fat, and as you're cooking it, so the fat is essentially redundant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into a gravy separator after I've mixed it all up and got all the flavour off, and I'll come back to you in a few minutes. Right, as we can see by this, all the fat has risen to the top and all the juice is underneath. So what I'm going to do now is get a pan, turn my gas on, and strain the juice through a little strainer to get rid of any bits of bone or what have you. Now keep your eye on this thing, and basically the juice is coming out, the fat is staying on the top. When it looks like the fat's about to come up the spout, stop pouring. Go get some fat now. So I'm going to stop pouring. What I'm going to do is reduce that down on a high heat until it's a thick syrup, and I'll come back to you then. Right, as you can see, I've now got a nice thick syrup, so I'm quite simply going to turn the gas off, and that is just lovely. Right, now I'm going to add the other bits and pieces to it. A good squirt of tomato ketchup, another good squirt of brown sauce, a good splash of Worcestershire sauce, and some soya sauce, and last but not least, some honey. What you're going to do now is stir this all in together. That pan's a bit warm. But if I'll be sitting on the stove for about 10 minutes, I'll be a bit warm. Okay, now let's taste it. That is one of the nicest barbecue sauces you'll ever taste. Right, we're now ready to finish off. All of this can be done beforehand. We're not eating for about 6 hours. So the ribs are going to sit in the fridge after I strip the wife's down off the bone. Mine are going to sit in the fridge. This is going to cool down. Gives me time to do whatever I'm going to serve it with. But you can do this up to 4 days in advance. For instance, if you're having a barbecue on a Saturday, you could do this on a Wednesday. Right? That's a pro tip. Get whatever you can done beforehand. It makes the event itself a lot easier. So I'll come back to you in a few hours when we're ready to serve. See you then. Okay, it's getting near tea time, so it's about time I thought about finishing this off. Now, ordinarily what I would do is barbecue these. Well, these wouldn't barbecue that, it would fall through the grill. But I can't barbecue these for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's pouring down with rain, as I predicted. Number 2, more importantly, I don't actually have a working barbecue anymore, because both my barbecues have passed their mortal coil and gone up to barbecue heaven, where I am sure they are serving the archangels as well as they serve me. Not only that, I also know that when the archangels turn the barbecues off, they will miraculously clean themselves. So I'm going to do is finish these off in the oven. Now, I said that my wife doesn't see the point in these. There ain't no meat in here. This is my wife's bit. There is 7 3/4 ounces, 218 grams of meat. And my wife doesn't see the point in this. When I was in the army, a serving soldier would get 6 ounces. 6 ounces of meat per meal. I'm offering my wife 7 3/4 ounces of meat, and it ain't enough. Whatever, enough said. Right, what I'm going to do with this now, if I were going to barbecue it, what I would do is pop these very carefully on the barbecue, give them about 3 minutes each side. Then I would brush them with the sauce and give them another minute and a half each side. Right, but as I said, I can't do a barbecue because I ain't got one. So I'm going to pop these on a tray in the oven. So let's get the tray out of the oven. As you can see, I've got a couple of tandoori chicken thighs, which I mentioned earlier, which are half cooked. What I'm going to do is find my brush. There it is. Get my ribs. Brush the ribs liberally with the sauce. My wife is going to get the best part of this deal because she gets whatever sauce is left. Pop those in the tray. Again with the other one. This is the bit that fell off. Pop that on there. But my wife is not going to get all the sauce, so I'll sprinkle a good bit on there. And I'm going to pop that in the oven, and I'm going to give that about 20 minutes. The rest of this sauce I'm going to add to my wife's, and I will just nuke it. So I'm going to come back to you in about 20 minutes when we're ready for service. Okay, service time. My dear wife, God lover, has asked for rice with her ribs. 7 3/4 ounces of ribs. No meat there, is there? He's waiting for the rice. I tell you, that smells good. Smells really good. Take those out of the oven. Just waiting on the rice. Says 1 minute. With my wife's rice, we're going to, my wife's ribs. Yeah, without the actual ribs. Nice bit of salad with the yoghurt dressing, and there's a celeriac salad there as well. Just getting the rice down the right way. It's quite hot. So rice, ribs, with no ribs, essentially pork, in a fabulous sauce. There is no other word for it. If you could smell what I'm smelling now, glorious. And the previously mentioned tandoori chicken thigh. That is my lovely wife's. Now for mine. Bit of meat. Bit more meat. And what the hell, a bit more meat. So what we're going to have with meat, simple really. Bit of salad with a nice yoghurt dressing, and a bowl full of chips. Not no French fries, proper English double fried chips. Enjoy.